Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another day of Fearless in Focus. Today is day 4, and I know I can say I've learned so much from this series.
I completely agree with you, Bukle. I think that this has been the most incredible week. We've had such amazing women come through. We've had incredible topics, and I really think that there's been so many valuable lessons that everyone has learned. And I think that this has most certainly been such an exhilarating and uplifting week, hasn't it, Bukle?
It honestly has, Christina, from a movie director to a chief leadership officer to an attorney, notary public, and conveyancer. I can honestly say it's been a jam-packed week.
It really has. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't stop there, as we have yet another phenomenal woman who will be taking the floor today. Now, certified life coach and soon to be psychologist, it gives us great pleasure of introducing you to Prenita Reddi.
Prenita Reddi is a driven, adventurous, and passionate individual who is currently studying psychology at WITS. She's also a certified life coach, entrepreneur, speaker, Miss South Africa mentor, and author of the book Transforming Miss to Mrs. A Woman's Guide to Divorce. She holds 2 degrees, a Bachelor of Commerce from WITS and a Master in Business Leadership from sorry, from UNISA School of Business Leadership. Being a wife, mum, and avid traveler, as well as feeding scheme volunteer, she constantly finds herself having to juggle life but loving it while doing it.
You know what? I think that that biography is honestly so incredible, Nobuhle, and it really talks to how inspirational Pranita is, and she hasn't even spoken today. Pranita's quotation that inspires her is from Oprah Winfrey, and that is that the biggest adventure you can take is to live the life of your dreams. I couldn't agree more with this quotation, Pranita, because I feel that it really resonates with women, and we should all live the life of our dreams because we only have one life, so we need to live it to the fullest. Ladies and gentlemen, Pranita will be speaking to us today on the importance of believing in yourself. Let's roll out the green carpet for drum roll. Pranita Reddi. Pranita, the floor is yours. Please come forward. Thank you so very much. Over to you.
Good morning, Christina and Mbluhle. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. And I'm so grateful to you and Sue and the Graduate Institute for Financial Services to be here today to speak to everyone a little bit about Women's Month and about believing in yourself. When Christina asked me, when was it last week, what title should she use? I was a little bit taken aback, and I wanted to actually tell Christina that still kind of finding my title was where I was, and I'll get to that in a minute. I mean, as you have heard, I am a wife, I'm a mom. I run a business with my husband. I do speak at the Mrs. South Africa women's mentorship program, and I mentor ladies there who are juggling being moms and wives and career and businesswomen and taking on a pageant. I also have written a book, and so obviously I haven't really found my title as yet. But it just comes to show you that I'm 42 years old, and you don't need to really have a title that defines you to define who you are. And in that being said, I have 2 degrees, a Bachelor of Commerce and a Master in Business Leadership, but I'm studying towards my psychology degree because within the last 3 years, I've realized that my passion actually lies in helping people, and that's actually what I want to do. So when I entered the Mrs. South Africa pageant a few years ago, it was uncovered to me that during that journey, that my passion lied in helping people. I then launched my book, Transforming Mrs. to Miss, A Woman's Guide to Divorce. Most of you are very young, so you guys won't need it for a couple of years, and hopefully you don't ever need it. The book was actually aimed at helping women through the very delicate process of divorce and the emotional aspects that are contained therein. And that actually led me to going out and, kind of finding my true passion, which was helping people. And that encouraged me to go out and study psychology. So, like most of you here, I am studying too, and I've gone back to undergraduate to add psychology to my degree. So, it's quite a change for me to be back in undergrad. But I'm loving every moment. And it just goes to show you that even at 42, you may not know what you truly want to do. And that doesn't define how you should go about life. What I've learned over the years and what I'm going to speak to you mostly about is believing in yourself. Now, self-belief, I think, is very important, especially during Women's Month. I mean, not that women shouldn't be, looked upon throughout the year, but this particular month, I think, is about women really just focusing and remembering their strength and remembering that their power lies within themselves as women. And I find this a lot in my mentoring program, that women often forget how strong we actually are. We actually forget to believe in ourselves, which is so important because self-belief actually determines where you're going. If I didn't have self-belief right now, I would be quite a mess because I'm 42 years old, studying undergrad, still finding my title, still finding myself. And I know that that's okay because I have one very important thing. I have self-belief. I believe entirely in myself. I believe in my abilities, and I know that it'll take me where I need to go. So today I'm going to relate a story about believing in oneself. I always believe that people learn actually through stories. So I'm going to relate a little bit of my biography to you and how I came to believe in myself. So, sorry, I know I seem a bit distracted. It's just so weird doing a talk to black spots on the screen. It's actually quite weird. I'm so used to doing these talks with actual people around. But in any event, it is what it is, and we have to adapt. So, yeah, I'm adapting. So let's get back to my story of how I started to believe in myself. So I was around 22 years old, and I just finished kind of my degree. I got married very young the first time around. I was actually 21. So at 22, I'd had my first child, actually 23. And my marriage was actually quite rocky. In my book, I describe what my marriage was like. I won't say it was a horrid marriage or it was a bad marriage. I think we just weren't compatible. And I was still trying to find myself. So I would not advocate for marriage at the age of 21 or 22. I think that at that point, you're still trying to find out who you are as a person. And it's definitely not an ideal age to become a mom or to get married and then involve yourself with somebody else without identifying what it is that you actually want. So I found myself in quite a conundrum because I was trying to find who I was and at the same time trying to be a mom and a wife and all of these things. And my husband was quite old-fashioned, so he believed that a woman's place was at home and that women weren't allowed to work or sorry, women weren't allowed to work or basically have their own kind of standing in society. They were basically supposed to be barefoot and pregnant and at home, taking care of the kids. So we obviously differed in our views of what women were. And that obviously put a lot of strain onto our marriage. And it actually broke my self-esteem quite a bit because I found that I didn't believe a lot in myself. But because our marriage was very troublesome and we had a lot of problems, I actually wanted to just stand on my own 2 feet. And I decided to go and look for a job. But my husband, like I said, was very old-fashioned, refused for me to get a job. So I had to find a learnership. And I presented this learnership to him and I told him that, basically the learnership was not it wasn't a job. It was me extending my research into my learning and putting it into a work environment. And he agreed. So up I went and I joined the learnership at Liberty Life at the time. So the learnership ran, for a period of 10 months. And during this time, we learned various skills. I was very excited. We were also put into practical positions to run the learnership. And we got a lot of hands-on practical experience. At the end of the learnership, there were 6 spaces that, and these people were going to were going to be placed actually into a very prestigious role called a corporate specialist. But as you know, how learnerships run is that because companies train you for such a long period of time, they actually don't want to let go of the skills. So during the journey, they advocate that you actually apply internally so that they could place the remaining, 16 or 17 students into the company, because they've already learned valuable skills. They've already spent so much of money on R&D and learning, and they've spent so much on each individual that they actually want to retain the skills. So the learnership ended in November, and the top 6 that we're going to be taken through, we're going to be named in November. But if you wanted to be placed in the company in any other position, you could apply during the year. So around September, I was quite desperate to have a job, and I couldn't wait for November to decide if they may or may not have chosen me. And because my belief in myself was so low, obviously, I didn't want to wait. I didn't know if I was one of the 6. I mean, there were 25 of us. If I was one of the 6 that were going to be taken, I mean, that was unknown to me. So I started applying internally for some admin positions. And I applied for, I think, about 4 or 5 different positions. And at the end of the week, I got a call from HR. So obviously, I was extremely excited about this call. I was going to get a job finally. And, you know, my rocky marriage, I would not be reliant on my husband. I would be reliant on myself. So I was very excited. So I went into the meeting. I went to HR and I met with the HR director. And she had some sad news for me that I didn't get any of the roles. I was distraught because for me, this was my ticket out. This was my ticket for me standing on my own 2 feet, on me finding my financial freedom, being free, being able to just identify who I was. And, you know, it meant so much to me. And she asked me why I wanted this job. So I told her I actually wanted job security. I didn't obviously tell her the real reason as to why I didn't really want the job. I actually needed the job for my sanity. And what she told me was that she promised me that if I didn't make the top 6 during this period in November, that she would personally find me a position after that. I was quite disappointed, and I reluctantly accepted that that's what I do. I'd wait until November, and if I wasn't chosen as one of the top 6, then I would come back and she would find me something. November came, and we all sat in the conference room, and they were announcing the top 6. They mentioned 5 people, and the 6th one was the last position. And this was the Learner of the Year position as well. So it wasn't just, this person wasn't just going to be part of the top 6, but also the Learner of the Year. And the director called out my name. I was shocked. I was completely shocked. I hadn't realized that I was not just a choice for the top 6, but I was their first choice for the top 6. But that's how low my belief in myself was at the time. That's how low my self-esteem was. And I went home that day and I didn't celebrate. I cried. I cried and I cried and I cried because I had realized at that point in time that I'd let somebody else's opinion of me to determine my belief in myself. I had let my husband in. I had let his opinions of my abilities influence my own opinion of my abilities. I didn't see that I was a top student. I didn't believe that I was one of the top 6, nevertheless, the top student that they would choose. And I sat that day and I cried and I reflected. And at the end of it, I decided that I was never again going to allow somebody to determine my self-worth. That would be the last time that I ever allowed somebody else's opinion of me to determine what I was capable of. And that was the day that I began to believe in myself. That was the day that I realized how important believing in yourself was. But my belief in myself didn't just stop there. This belief in myself grew phenomenally and helped me over the years. In one such case, it helped me just after I'd gotten divorced. I was still working at Liberty. I was in the corporate specialist position. And Liberty had begun restructuring. So like, when they said when it rains, it pours, it really was pouring. I was going through a divorce. I was a single mom. And now the company that I was working for was restructuring. And what this meant was that we all had to reapply for our jobs. And, I was taken aback by that because, you need security, at least in one aspect of your life. And for me, everything was crumbling all at the same time. But with my newfound belief that I'd found just a few months earlier, I decided that I wasn't going to give up. And I decided that if I was going to apply internally, I might as well apply externally as well. So off I went, and I decided that I was going to choose a new career. So I started talking to a couple of my friends. I mean, when I started the learnership at Liberty, it wasn't my first choice. I basically worked at Liberty because it was a learnership and because my husband refused to let me work. And the only reason he let me work was because it was an extension of learning. So that's how I ended up working at Liberty. And now I decided I had a chance to actually decide what I wanted to do. So I started researching different careers, different opportunities, where I wanted to be. And I came across something called private banking. It was so prestigious. And I decided that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do private banking. So with my newfound belief in myself and this excitement around private banking, I started putting my CV together, and off I went and posted it off on every career website with every possible private banker opening. And I waited a few weeks, and I realized that I started getting rejection notices, one after the other. I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, you don't fit our profile. And I was perplexed because I went back to the job profile, and some of the requirements were that you needed a BCom degree. I had that. You needed an understanding of accounting. I had that. You needed sales experience. I had that. You needed to be a people person. I was very much a people person. So as I went through the list of duties, responsibilities, and requirements, I had met all of them. And I couldn't understand why anyone wouldn't, give me an opportunity. So I continued applying. Eventually, I got a call from a lady at Peyton Personnel. Her name was Sarah. I remember Sarah very well because it was because of Sarah that I actually got into private banking. So Sarah called me and she said, Prenita, you keep sending me your CV and I keep sending out rejection letters. And, I just wanted to find out as to the reason as to why you are so determined to get into private banking. And I told her, you know what, Sarah, I would love to come in and meet with you. If you just give me 5 minutes of your time, I would explain to you. And, she was a bit hesitant because obviously this was to her, it was a waste of time. I mean, why would you spend some time on somebody who doesn't have any private banking experience? Because that was a reason for not forwarding my CV on. I didn't have any private banking experience. I didn't have any banking experience. So there was no way they could allow me into private banking. And but she reluctantly agreed to meet me because I was so persistent, obviously. And I went to her office and we sat down and we spoke, and she asked me why I wanted to get into private banking, and I'd explained to her that this had been my dream, and obviously I've realized that this is the area that I want to be in, and I am very capable, even though I lack experience. I make up for it in passion and my attitude and my can-do attitude and my ever-learning attitude. And at the end of the meeting, Sarah told me something that just blew me away. She said, Prenita, before I met you, I never knew that I would be able to place you. And since I've met you, I've realized that I can place you at any one of the top banks. Any of the banks will take you as a private banker. But I'm not going to get you into any bank. I'm going to get you into Investec. And I was once again just shocked, because Investec was not just a private bank. It was the private bank. It was the bank every private banker wanted to work for. And I went for the interview, and obviously I got it. So, I was very great at private banking. But like I said, as we go through life, we often change, we adapt, we learn new things. And I didn't stay in that career. I moved on to business banking a few years later at Nedbank. And when I got there, because I was a single mom, I aspired very much to climb the corporate ladder. So at that point in time, my drive was literally climbing the corporate ladder. All I wanted to do was find security for my daughter and myself. I was a single mom. Life was very difficult. It's very difficult playing mommy and daddy and being so young and trying to drive a career. And I decided that I was going to study for my master's. And I chose UNISA because it was a distance program. It worked out perfectly for me. I could work during the day, take care of my daughter at night, put her to bed, and then go on and do the lectures or do my readings or whatever was required of me. So it worked out quite nice. And before I actually went and enrolled for my master's, there was a lady that was working, a manageress at Nedbank, that I was very taken by and very impressed. She had just completed her master's in business leadership through UNISA as well. And I thought I would go to her and ask for some advice, about how to handle this next step and this next stage. And I approached her and I asked her, what did she think of me going off and studying a master's in business leadership, and how would it help my career and shape my future? And I was quite disappointed in her response to me. Her response to me was something like, I don't think that you should do a master's in business leadership because, well, you're a single mom, you're working full time. There's no way you'd be able to manage it. And I was really taken aback by that because, I expected a woman in her position to be supportive and to help me and to find ways in which I could do it. But once again, I couldn't rely on anybody else. I had to rely on myself and my belief in myself. And that was what allowed me to enroll for my further studies. Had I relied on somebody else's opinion, I probably wouldn't have went off and studied any further in any event. My journey would have stopped there. I would not have a master's behind me today. But this is why belief in yourself is so, so very important. But my belief in myself didn't just stop there as well. It's helped me throughout my life. When I worked at Deloitte, I was a strategy consultant, and during that time, there was a huge discrepancy between the male and female paycheck. I think it still exists, if I'm quite honest today, not just at Deloitte, but in most corporate organizations. Men get paid higher, women get paid a little less. And what had happened was I was working on a project, and one of my colleagues, it's actually against policy to actually discuss pay slips, but one of my colleagues was busy talking on the phone, and I overheard him tell somebody, because he was interviewing for another job, and I overheard him telling somebody what he was currently earning. I was devastated. I was completely devastated because, I mean, I'd worked just as hard as him. He was my colleague. We were on the same level, same footing. And here he was earning, I mean, at least a third more of what I was. So I was quite upset about it, but I decided that I could do something about it. So after I went and I researched what the pay scale was for the job that I was doing, I then put information together about, what women get paid, the discrepancy between males and females. And I set up an appointment with my director. And I went and I sat with him and I told him that, look, this is the issue that I'm having. I've recently come to find out that a male counterpart of mine is getting paid more than I am. And I'm quite disappointed in that fact. And this is the pay scale. I'm obviously underpaid and I would like a raise. And he looked at me a little bit shocked, I think, at first. But then, he said, no problem. What do you think your salary should be? I was a little bit shocked because I didn't expect that response. I actually expected him to fight me a little bit on it and, defend the fact that I was in the right pay scale, but he didn't. And because I believed in myself and I was able to sit with him and have this discussion with him, I actually got a pay raise equivalent to that of my male counterpart. So belief in oneself is so important, and it really helps you in every aspect of your life. It helped me even when I resigned corporate and decided to join my husband in running our own business. It's helped me now that I am deciding to go back to undergrad and study psychology. And next year I'll be doing my honors full-time in psychology, obviously with a whole host of younger students as my colleagues as well. But that doesn't bother me at all because I have something more powerful than anyone. I have belief in myself. I know that I control my own destiny. And I know that wherever the road may lead, it only depends on the belief that I have within myself. So if I can give you one important part of information today, it's that you should never stop believing in yourself. You should never stop believing in your abilities, because that's going to define who you are. That is going to define your path in life. It's going to define, it plays out in every scenario, whether it's work, whether it's studies, whether it's family, it plays out everywhere. And if you have that belief within yourself, you are unstoppable. You can conquer absolutely anything. My belief in myself even helped me when I was, when I self-published my book. Publishing a book is a very scary option because you're allowing a little bit of yourself to be out there, but you're also not sure if people are going to like what you're writing, or people are going to accept what you're writing, or even people want to hear what you're writing. So it's actually a very daunting experience. But when you have self-belief, none of those experiences become daunting. None of those experiences become frightening because you know your worth, and knowing your worth sets you apart from everybody else. So my message for today is believe in yourself. Never stop believing in yourself. It's the one thing that will move you forward time and time again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prenita. I definitely know that I'm going to hold on to that. Self-belief is extremely important. Listening to you reminded me so much of what Roy Burnett once said. The more you believe in yourself is the more you'll trust yourself. The more you trust yourself is the less you'll compare yourself to others. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can't believe in miracles, then believe in yourself. When you want something bad enough, let that drive push you to make it happen.
I completely agree with you, Buhle. And Prenita, listening to you today has honestly been such an incredible eye-opener, because in order to believe in yourself, you have to love yourself, because your voice is important, because your dreams matter, because there's only one you, and because you're worth it. And, you know, the more that you believe in yourself, the more you can trust yourself. And the more that you trust yourself, the less that you can compare yourself to others. So I think that your speech today has honestly been so incredible and really, really thought-provoking. So thank you very much. Excuse me. I know that we have quite a lot of questions today. So if we could please ask for all of the individuals who do have questions to please raise your hand, and then we will attend to you. Buhle, do you have any questions that you may have that you want to ask Prenita first?
I most definitely do. I think what I'd like to know, Prenita, is that if you could go back and maybe give your 21-year-old self advice, what would you tell her?
Okay, so if I had to go back and tell my 21-year-old self anything, I think it would be never focus on the opinions of other people. You know, people don't really matter. Other people's opinions don't matter. All that matters is your belief in yourself. I think I would tell myself to give myself more time to grow, more time to uncover who I am, and to not put so much of pressure onto myself. I put a lot of pressure onto myself in corporate, in growing my corporate career. I was very focused on that in my 20s. And, you know, at the end of the day, that's not even where I am. So I think I would tell myself to enjoy the ride a little bit more and focus less on the attainment of I wouldn't say goals, because I think goals are important, but I think less of the attainment of climbing the corporate ladder and more of the value of climbing the corporate ladder, if that makes sense. Am I supposed to unmute? I'm not sure. Christina, please help.
Yes, it absolutely does make sense, Pranita. I'm sure we do have some of our colleagues who'd like to ask a question. I do see Catherine Pakari's name is up. Can you please come forward and ask your question?
Thank you, Nobushle. Hi, Pranita. So thank you for sharing, and I personally have taken so much from what you have shared today. So my question for you is, did you have a mentor? And would you recommend one to the young people striving to make a difference in their careers?
Thank you, Catherine. It's wonderful to meet you as well. Yes, I did. I had several mentors along the way. I had a mentor at every company that I worked for. So be it at Liberty, at Investec, at Nedbank, at Deloitte, I had a mentor in each of those spheres. Like I said, I never really stayed in one career for a long period of time. I stayed for 2 to 3 years. Deloitte was 5. And it's very important to have a mentor, because a mentor guides you in a lot of ways. A mentor will be able to shape you, and a mentor sees the bigger picture a lot of the time. So a lot of the times you are looking basically through a very small kind of tunnel vision environment, whereas your mentor has, you know, the bigger picture or the bigger view in space. So I think it's very important to get a mentor. I had a mentor not just in the company, but also a very good friend of mine that was obviously my mentor as well, and she's guided me in various aspects of my life. In when I changed careers as well, in terms of what I wanted to study, things like that. Mentors shape who you are. Like I said, I am part of the Mrs. South Africa mentorship program as well. So there we do mentor women who are married and, you know, juggling careers, families, and all of those type of things. And there as well, I see the value of a mentor, because once again, you know, as individuals, we can get so caught up in the finer details of life that we almost forget the bigger picture. And it's the mentor that actually keeps you in line, or keeps your vision alive of what you really want. So please do look for a mentor, someone that you resonate with, someone that you can grow with. You know, it's so easy to actually find a mentor. You just need to look for somebody that inspires you in the field that you are looking to go into. And it doesn't really necessarily mean just in your career, but in life as a whole. And when you find that person, reach out to them. send them an email, send them a message on Instagram or Facebook, and you'll actually be surprised at how many people will actually write back, and they will be quite flattered to actually mentor you. So don't be afraid to reach out to people that you feel are inspirational, and don't limit yourself to one mentor. You can have 2 or 3 mentors. I had several along the course of my career. Thank you again for the question.
Thank you so very much for that, Catherine. And Prenita, I actually couldn't agree with you more, because, a mentor is someone who allows you to see the hope inside yourself. And the greatest value about them is, the ability to see ahead what others can't see, and to help you navigate a course to your destination, or to your career, or to whatever or whatever you need to go to. And I think that, it's really great to have that mentor. So I couldn't agree with you more, to be honest. I see that we do have Brendan's hand that is raised. Brendan, if you could please come forward and ask your question. Thank you very much.
Morning, Prenita.
Sorry, Brendan, you're breaking up a little bit, and I can't really hear you. If you can just speak a little bit louder.
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so sorry about that. Prenita, I just wanted to ask, what would be the biggest advice you could give a young lady starting in their corporate journey?
Oh, Brendan, I'm so sorry. You're breaking up a little bit. Nambluhle or Christina, did you hear that question? If you can just repeat it for me so I can answer Brendan.
I'm just going to assist Brendan with his microphone. Give me 2 seconds, please.
No problem at all.
Hi, Prenita. Can you hear me?
Oh, now I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, so sorry about that. Prenita, just a quick question. I just wanted to ask, what is the biggest advice you could give a young lady that is starting in their corporate journey?
So I think the biggest piece of advice that I can give anyone in corporate is that never have tunnel vision in your career. Always enter your career with an open mind. We're now between generation, what's it, X, Y, Z, those type of generations. And with that generations that are coming through the workforce, we find that the time that we spend in a particular corporate career is actually quite short, because people get bored quickly, people want change, people want a difference. So my advice would be keep learning, keep studying, keep your options open. Never just close yourself off to one career. I've had several titles throughout my career. I was a corporate specialist, I was a private banker, business banker, I was in a channel manager, a product manager, went on to be a senior consultant at Deloitte, and then went on to becoming a lead or a manager at Deloitte. So there was never one set corporate career that I followed. I grew and I studied, and I think that's the most important thing. Keep your options open, keep learning, because the world is changing. The world changes so fast, new opportunities open. Just don't limit yourself. Keep learning new skills. Skills are so important. You can never stop learning skills. So for me, education is at the forefront of everything. I'm still studying. I'm doing my honors next year in psychology. So for me, it's a new avenue, it's a new branch. And even with psychology, you never stop studying, because you're always learning new techniques that are coming out. You're always at the forefront, learning of new things. So just keep an eager mind, keep an open mind, and keep studying.
Thank you so much for that.
Pleasure.
Great day.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much for that, Brendan. And thank you very much for that, Prenita. I see that we do have Wasima's hand raised. Wasima, if you could please come forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. Hi, Prenita. Thank you so much for such an inspiring session. I loved when you said at the beginning, you didn't know your title, and it's okay to be 42 and not know, I think, talking about limitations and people limiting themselves, a lot of people let their age limit them. And, your message for today is just to believe in yourself. So no matter your age, no matter what, you just need to, believe yourself. So thank you so much for that inspirational message. My question for you today is, was there a time that you messed up and felt like you failed? How did you bounce back from that?
Thank you, Wasima. Once again, lovely to meet you. Yes, wow, lots of times. I felt like a failure lots of times, but I think the one most important part of my life where I felt like a failure was when I got divorced. For me, I was one of those people that believed that you get married and you live happily ever after. You build the white picket fence around the house, and you have 2.5 children, and life goes on. So when that didn't happen for me, I felt like the biggest failure. And that was one of the reasons that I wrote the book, because emotionally, women, when they have that kind of first failure in their lives, or any failure for that matter of fact, they go back into a very dark space, because women are very emotional. We as women, most of us, no, I'm not saying all, but most of us are very emotional. So we go around this course of self-blame and trying to figure out where it went wrong and how it went wrong. And it's a very difficult space to get out of emotionally. And it's a thing where you have to really dig deep. And once again, self-belief is pivotal. Because if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe that you have what it takes to get out of that space, you're never going to do it. What it is it's a choice. You have a choice. You failed at something, be it, when I was at university, my first year, I was out partying, coming from an Indian background. It's very limiting because parents don't allow you to go out and have a social life. So when you go to university, you are first time partying, and I failed. So once again, that for me was huge, because I've never failed before in my life. And I had to go back and reevaluate. I had to dig deep, and I had to believe in myself again and my abilities, and tell myself that that was not a true reflection of who I was. But once again, it was a choice that I made. I could sit there and say, oh, I'm a failure and I'm never going to go anywhere further in life, and that's it. And, I might as well drop out of university and never go on, and that's it. Or I had the choice to say, wait a minute, I messed up. I made a mistake, but I can do better next time around. And be it in my first year of study, or be it in, my corporate career, or even in my marriage, if I sat back and said, I failed the first time around, I'm never trying this again, I would never be happily married the second time around. I would never have my additional 2 young boys that are that just bring utter joy to me. I wouldn't have that in my life. So you have to believe in yourself, and you have to make that choice. That choice is so pivotal, because if you don't make that choice, that I'm not going to let this define who I am, then you are going to sit there being very, very disappointed with your life. And that could take on various forms. You could go into depression. You could, there's various things that could happen. But I would just advise that you make the choice. That's the first step. Make the choice to see the positives, make the choice to see how you can go back and do this different, or do this better next time round. Thank you so much for that question.
Thank you so much, Prenita.
Thank you so much, Prenita, for answering that question. I think I took 2 major things from what you said: choices and constantly trying again. I can see that Nomthandazo would also like to ask a question. So Nomthandazo, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Butle. You can just call me Nomti in short, because I don't think Prenita will be able to call her that name. It's too long. Hi, Prenita. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Nomthando.
You see what I mean?
I don't think I pronounced it quite correctly.
No, but it's okay. It's okay. First thing first, I like your energy. I love your confidence, and I don't really see, when you speak about failures, I'm looking at you, I'm like, these are 2 separate things. Even though this is virtual, but I felt your presence. You're that person that, like, she's arrived, you know. So that just excites me because I try or I aspire to be that person as well myself through my corporate journey. I've noticed, or you mentioned about your career, and I just want you maybe to help or guide here and there, because we were raised to believe that in your corporate journey, it kind of reflects bad if you hopping jobs in between. You know what I mean? You have one career, you move to the next, you can't stay. It's like you can't keep a job. How did you manage to move around without being judged, without being less accredited? You know what I mean? Without that stigma to say, hey, is she credible? Can we really hire her? Because I think one of the things that if one wants to make a decision, you're just thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to look at my CV, look at my history, and they say, she cannot be trusted, or he cannot be trusted. And you decide to stay in one position on one job because of the fear of the unknown. How did you overcome all of that?
Thanks, Nom, for that great question. So, yes, it is a very valid question, because normally we are thought to actually stay and have a long corporate career, you know, and one of the concerns is that we don't actually do that often enough, especially with the new generations coming about. But for me, how I overcame it was that I never promised any company that I was going to stay there until the end of days. What I did promise them was that during my time there, I was going to make a difference. During my time, whether I was going to be employed for 2 years or 3 years, my presence within the company would be felt. And I was very focused. I was very focused on my corporate career. I was very focused on growing myself. For me, it wasn't about growing a title or growing vertically. It was about growing my skill set. And I think that's where I focused more than anything else. So when I went in for interviews, or when I was questioned about why I left my last job, it was because I didn't have enough career growth. I'm a person that loves a new challenge. I'm a person that loves to learn new skills. I'm a person that just adores when, I get bored in the same role, doing the same thing over and over again. So for me, there has to be some change. So I think I overcame that by expressing my desire to learn more, to be open to new challenges, and to promising that whilst I was there, that they were going to see a difference. And I can honestly tell you, in every single job that I have been in, every single corporate job that I have been, I made a difference. I met my targets whilst I was there, when I was in sales, or whether I was just in, customer retention, or customer growth, or customer satisfaction. Regardless of which role I fulfilled, I was very passionate about that role. And it wasn't about hopping or changing careers or finding more money. I mean, becoming a psychologist, I'm looking at the clinical route. So for me, there's not much money in clinical. I would have stood a better chance staying at Deloitte and being a corporate consultant. By now I would have made director. But for me, it's not about that. It's about following your passion. It's about learning new skills and upskilling yourself. And that's what you need to do. So when you want to change from one job to another, my advice would be, do it because you're passionate about the new skills that you're going to acquire. Do it because you can relate to them what you can offer the position. So this is my past experience. This is what I can bring to this role. And whilst I'm in this role, this is how I can grow this role with all the various things that I've learned over the years. And this is how I can add value to the company whilst I'm there. I can't promise you that I'm going to retire with you, but what I can promise you is that whilst I'm here, I'm going to give it 110%. So that's how I would motivate it. Well, that's how I did motivate it.
Thank you so much for that. Definitely, I may take some notes. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for that response. Now, Prenita, listening to you today has truly been inspiring. I've always learned that the distance between your dreams and reality is called action, and you have most certainly put all of that into perspective for us all today.
I completely agree with you, Buhle. I think that, Prenita, you've really spoken volumes today. I feel that you've really hit a sweet spot with everyone. So thank you so very much for that. And I think that, you know, everyone can concur and agree with both Buhle and myself as to how incredible the session really has been. So thank you so very much. And yeah, I think if there aren't any other questions, we would just like to thank you on behalf of everybody. Thank you very much for such a phenomenal and such a remarkable, thought-provoking session. And yeah, really, really look forward to, you know, to hearing more about how great you are doing. And yeah, just thank you so very much for everything, and have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you, Christina. Thanks for having me, everyone, and have a wonderful Women's Month and a wonderful day further.
Thank you so much, Prenita.
Bye, everyone.